In this video I receive and unbox and use an Anycubic 4Max Pro 3D printer. I chose this one as I have had some past experience with the brand. I had an Anycubic i3 Mega, which was my go-to printer for quite a while, and it was a fairly successful printer which I worked consistently until some cables finally failed. I then repaired those cables and upgraded some of its components to carry on using it for a while longer. So I'm expecting some good things from this one. The 4Max Pro is a fully enclosed printer which is supplied well packaged with filament and tools plus spare parts and an easy to follow manual. The print bed is 270mm along the x-axis, 205mm along the y and 205 along the z. The homing position is to the front left of the machine, and there's several new features including a nozzle brush and an internal air filter within the enclosure. The setup is very simple and you can follow the instructions provided to get it running, so I don't have to go through that in too much detail. After cutting any cables and removing all the packaging, I added the filament runout sensor and the spool holder. I then made sure the voltage was set correctly to my area and finally plugged and powered the machine up. It made a horrible intro noise, which if you've used an Anycubic printer before will know this is a feature for some reason. And then quickly navigated to the menu to check if I could turn that off, which I could, and also saves the memory so it doesn't sound the following time you turn the machine on. I then manually leveled the bed, being extra careful to not touch the print surface with my hands. It's a shame they haven't moved to an automatic leveling system, but the process is easy enough, and again documented in the manual. I then downloaded the latest version of Cura and set up the printer details. They have a preset for the 4Max, which is the smaller version, which I selected and changed to accommodate the differences of the 4Max Pro. Here are some screen captures of those details with a description alongside the G-code. And for some reason I had to delete a semicolon on this line to stop the printer from crashing when moving towards the rear of the machine at the end of a job. The first thing I printed once up and running was a test cube which I downloaded from Thingiverse, and that came out well and measured accurately. That's a really impressive print. I also printed a retraction test again and again until I tweaked the settings and got the results I wanted. I then drew up a diagonal calibration test to check the X and Y axis were square. The idea with these is the measurement between opposite corners along the diagonals will be identical if the X and Y axis are square. I use a similar method to check my CNC machine, so it's a tried and tested method, but not something I've seen used on 3D printers. Okay, it's just finished. Just turn the light back on, and I'm going to move This version was a little too big to use the vernier caliper, but I was able to tighten the dividers along one diagonal and compare that with the other. This came out pretty good as far as I could tell, so I'm a happy boy. If you'd like to download a model of the diagonal calibration test, I'll add a link to the amended file in the description below. The downloadable file will be a little smaller so the diagonal reading can be checked with a 150mm vernier caliper. The last thing I'll do is open the bottom of the printer and have a quick look at the electronics to make sure it is all installed correctly. Obviously I'll unplug the power while I do this. The thing I don't understand is why there's 5 stepper drivers. There's only 4 wires. Anyway, the wires look okay, so I'm just going to put this back. On the Anycubic i3 Mega, some cables eventually broke because the bend along them towards moving parts was just too tight, and the constant movement back and forth wore the flex. It's hard to see where this might happen on this machine, but there's definitely no drag chain to prevent it. So what are the pros and cons to this machine that I've noticed so far? The main arguments for the printer are the large print surface, easy to use touchscreen, a convenient nozzle brush, and an internal air filter. You can also turn off the annoying intro noise and harsh light, although the noise setting is saved to memory, but the light always seems to turn back on. The printer also has an auto off feature that shuts down the machine at the end of a job. Not that you should leave the printer unattended and assume that it will turn off, but if you've printed 30% or so of a model, you can feel pretty confident it will probably make it to 100, but still, I wouldn't leave the building I'm in while the printer's running. Now for the main arguments against the machine, and these are, for me, the light, which is a horrible colour of cold blue. Every time the printer turns on, I think winter has just got a little bit worse. The other things I am disappointed about in the printer include there being no auto bed leveling, which feels a little bit outdated considering how many printers have this feature now, and the fact that there's no removable flexible bed. I also noticed that because the enclosure is predominantly made of plastic, you do get some creaking noises while everything is heating up, but that doesn't seem to impact the print quality, as far as I can tell. The other thing is, because the machine is enclosed, it's hard to monitor the print, as visibility is obscured because of the oversized print head with all its mechanics in there. It's a shame there's no internal camera, because I think that would have been a great feature to help with visibility and checking on prints. Anyway, thanks again for watching. The usual links are in the description, and I'll also add some more detailed images of the machine in the accompanying article. Adios.